now here is your host, Attorney Sheila Stewart. The mic is yours.
Thank you so much, Daryl. It's great to hear your voice. We are glad to be with you here on this evening. And Daryl, you're doing a wonderful job. We thank you for all of the work that you are doing with C-Joy Network. We also would like to thank Donnie Savage for the wonderful job that he is doing as well. He works so hard trying to make sure all of the guests and the moderators are in place. So thank you so much, Minister Savage and Daryl Brett. On this evening, we have with us on today, Attorney Sam Henderson. Mr. Henderson is a former police officer. He is also a licensed attorney. He has been very instrumental in handling civil rights cases as well. And so we're going to just have a very comfortable discussion on this evening as it relates to many issues of interest. As you know, we just received the George Floyd verdict, and many people are excited about the verdict. We're going to talk about the George Floyd verdict. We're going to talk about policing, and we're going to try to give you some helpful information as it relates to expungements. So if you are an individual that you're trying to get a job, you're trying to vote, and you have these felonies on your record, what can you do to get them removed? So we want to give you some valuable tips on today to assist you with you as you go on your journey. How are you today, Attorney Henderson?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Sheila. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your most busy schedule to be with us on this evening. You have been with us before. You did a great job. We talked about some of the civil rights issues in the past, and we wanted to just bring you back so we can discuss the George Floyd verdict and some of the issues that's taken place in the United States on today. The United States is in a turbulent place as it relates to its citizens and policing. What are your thoughts about the current climate as it relates to policing?
I think the current climate is that it's always been a mistrust. What I mean by that, the community, at the same time, not all police officers are doing misconduct, but when one police officer engaged in misconduct, it's like it's widespread. So I think it's just the community is losing trust, and I think the George Floyd verdict is kind of holding that accountability, bringing back that accountability, where we're holding police officers that it's a tough job, but holding them accountable because they're here supposed to be for serve and to protect.
Now, as we know, the verdict came back guilty, 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 guilty. And we also know that Derek Chauvin, he has a right to an appeal. One of the things that was stated that our beloved Congresswoman Maxine Waters, she made a horrible mistake when she made this statement regarding if the verdicts did not return in a favorable manner, that the people need to become confrontational. And so when the judge was getting ready to give the sentencing guidelines, he actually stated that Mr. Floyd may have an appealable issue. I don't think and believe that she said anything that rose to the level or there's any evidence to indicate there's a mistrial. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's one thing if something came back a lot of times when the jurors is out deliberating. It's one thing if something came back and said that, they heard this, what Maxine with Ms. Carter said, or that has some influence that came up during the deliberation. But to not get that feedback from the jury, and just because of the defense made a motion for a mistrial, and for the judge to say that that this could it could potentially be an issue on appeal, I think just like the jurors are following the law, there's the letter of the law, there's instructions given to the jurors. I think the court as far as should pretty much do the same. It's not make an opinion, but just state the laws, state what the duties are where the jurors have to do. So I thought that was really strange for the judge to say that. You know, a lot of times we just get instructions to say to the jurors is that, you know, vote for what you see, the evidence based upon the evidence, and don't let anything influence you.
Absolutely. I personally thought the judge overstepped his bounds when he made the comment about the Congresswoman. I thought he went way too far in terms of making that statement, because no evidence has been presented that the jury has been misled by anything. They were sequestered. They were given instructions that they're not supposed to read anything. They're not supposed to look at anything on TV. So for the judge to make that statement, it bothered me personally and professionally that he would make a statement before the jurors convene to render a decision, a verdict on the case.
Yeah, and I agree. And think about what Congresswoman Waters said. You know, she just basically says that stay on the street. She says to be more active, and if you don't, you know, get more confrontation. That can mean different interpretation. That doesn't necessarily mean violence. That can mean, you know, protest. That can mean holding people accountable. It's just that it was very broad statement, and it's and it can go into different people in interpretation. You know, just to say to be more confrontation, we are comforting when we have a trial and we're advocating for someone. We're being very confrontation. We're cross-examining people. We're talking to people. We're holding people accountable. So that can mean different things. It doesn't mean violence. It doesn't mean an insurrection. If that's what they were trying to imply.
Absolutely, absolutely. Since we've had the George Floyd verdict, we've had numerous shootings again and again and again. We had the 16-year-old young lady that was shot. I think her name was Makaya. I want to get her name here. Makaya. Then we had the young man that was being served a warrant. He was Makaya Bryant in Columbus, Ohio. She was shot in the chest by a police officer. Several rounds fired, hitting her in the chest, and she died. Then we had Dante Wright that was shot by Kimberly Potter. And then we have the young man that they were serving the warrant to in North Carolina that was shot in the back. So so even in the midst of the George Floyd case, we're having shooting after shooting after shooting. And my take on this is there must be substantial police reform. There must be substantial police reform. Now, as a prior police officer, now and an attorney, and I am saying that we need police reform badly. Not so much we need to defund the police because everything is going so badly. We need to have police in place, but we have to reform it, and we have to do it quickly. What are your thoughts about reforming the police throughout the United States as a prior police officer?
I think as a prior police officers get a lot of training. You get a lot of training in self-defense, de-escalation, the use of force. There's so many type of training. And I think that's what it back down to, training and holding bad police officer accountable. You know, it is a tough job, but at the same time, when someone is violating someone's rights, when someone, the person that is supposed to enforce the law is actually violating the law, then that's an issue. I think it's more accountability. I think that has a lot to do with police reform is definitely needed, but I think it's accountability. It's like, I think the George Floyd case was one of the first cases that you really see where police officers are coming out saying that what the officer did was violating of policy. You know, you saw the chief of police talking about it. You saw the training, the training officer saying that we don't teach that type of use of that method. Then you see dispatchers, 911 going in, talking to their supervisors about what they're seeing. It's that when you see when that something is not right, someone's violating rights. I think this is what's the turning point in George Floyd, is that you heard people come out and speak about it, and it's just not based upon race. It's all across the board. People who saw that and seen what happened and heard the evidence, and it came back with the verdict. And I think that's the thing. It's more of accountability. We understand that there's a police union, that they represent a lot of the police officers when there is accused of misconduct. But there needs to be an accountability too. There needs to be, if someone violates someone's civil rights, there needs to be accountability for that.
Okay. You are listening to Legal Views with attorney Sheila R. Stewart. We're on C-Joy Network today, and we're streaming live on Facebook. I am located at 231 South Bemiston Avenue, Clayton, Missouri, and that number there is 314-854-1339. And we are here to take your questions. If you have any civil rights questions and so forth, please feel free to give attorney Sheila Stewart and attorney Sam Henderson a call. Now, this is a bigger concern that I have. When the 16-year-old child was shot, okay, there were several people around her. The person who they're allegedly trying to save, she could have been shot. You saw I saw fights like this growing up, kids fighting in school or whatever. And I believe that that was an excessive amount of force that was used for this 16-year-old girl. It was too much force, and it could have been broken up, disbanded without the officer firing those rounds into this young lady's chest. I believe that in Black communities of color, that the reaction from the police officers in communities of color is to shoot first and figure out the facts later, or figure out the information later. Now, not all police officers are doing that, because we have some great police officers, some police officers that go above and beyond. So I'm not putting everybody in the same pot. But in communities of color, you often see that the response is the over-exaggerated use of force. The life is taken, and then there goes the investigation. What are your thoughts about the excessive force that is used in communities of color?
My thoughts are that, I think what a lot of the issue comes down to, think about this, that there's people who are policing in the community that's within the Black community that may not be a reflection of that community. So what that basically means is that you get away from not knowing the individuals, not knowing the family, not knowing, hey, this is a family that grew up here. This is people who come into the community, knowing it. And I think a lot of it, the police work is a stressful job. Most of the time when police is called, it's not at the best moments. People are upset. There's chaos. There's a lot of things going on. And that doesn't justify the use of excessive force. I think it's a combination of everything. I think it's a combination of a lot of people who may not go through with their training, because in police, the police academy talks about the use of force. The use of force is a de-escalation of force too. If someone who's a threat and they're no longer a threat, then you don't use the force. So like in the situation you said, where it's just a fight, there's other things that can be deployed. There could be mace. There can be different things that an officer can use other than using deadly force. Deadly force is when there's a threat. There's an intimate threat to the officer, someone else. And if there's a fight and there's no one holding a weapon, there's no one, and there's even then you give commands when you can. So I think it's a combination of things. I don't think it's a one thing, point finger on it. It's people who are not really being involved in the community and understanding people. And there's people who are not exercising their training. And two is that you have to value people's lives too. You have to value that that's someone's life. And if you really are going to take their life, it should be because of there's a threat or protect. So I think it's a combination of a lot. And goes back down to the accountability too. When this, a lot of times when and officers are using these excessive force, it's not the first time. It may be a history of this, and you know, you get away with it once, you get away with it twice, you keep getting away with it. You know, it's just keep escalating. So I think
absolutely, because they said Derek Chauvin had 12 incidents of misconduct in his file. 12 incidents. So this guy, somebody was just constantly looking the other way during, you know, these incidents. You know, when he go too far, use excessive force, using excessive force, that someone's looking the other way. So we have to put some systems in place that's going to create this accountability that you are referring to. What type of systems need to be put in place, in your opinion? We're just talking, you know, just whatever I just want to hear your thoughts to create accountability. What do you think that would look like?
I think, first of all, is to put more people, the reflection of the community, so have understanding, have a little bit more understanding that, you know, that just because a kid is running, a black kid that's running down the street, doesn't necessarily mean that the kid just committed a crime. Different other things, and even running away from the police, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that the person just committed a crime. So you have to have an understanding of it. So I think, again, a better reflection and recruit of the people in the community. And I think that we have to kind of stop this just covering up and letting the officers move on to other things. Like, especially inside St. Louis is really unique because you hear about this immunity shuffle. And what that basically means is that if there's an officer that may have done something wrong, you know, or accused of something, okay, well, the officer can resign. And then you see that same police officer working in another municipality. And that happens a lot in St. Louis, you know, someone that may resign on the questionable situations, and then they are working in another municipality. So you have that same police officer policing in another community, and they have to take that same behavior, that same thought, and that's, so I think that's another thing. That's one of the things that they're talking about, reform.
That would be great, especially with the all of the different little municipalities around the St. Louis area, where you see the different individuals moving. I've seen that. I've seen these officers go from municipality to municipality, writing the same types of tickets to the same groups of people.
Yes. And that's the thing. So the reform can be a lot of things. And especially we know about, you know, there's other legislation trying to ban chokeholds, you know, the no-knock warrant, and qualified immunity. Just trying to get the military, you know, like, you know, police is in the community, and to not have like that military tactics, you know. And so it's a lot of things that can be done. There's a lot of things that people are trying to do. There's a lot of legislators out there that's trying to address some of these issues.
Very good, very good. Now let's just shift locally for a few moments. That currently the city of St. Louis has seen 61 murders so far this year. And the murder rate is up across the country. It's not just St. Louis, but the murder rate is primarily up across the country. And the murder rate, particularly in St. Louis, 10 of those murders have been children. Okay, so how do we come in to this new era post-pandemic? You know, there's so much mistrust for the police, but at the same time, we're having all of these problems with the murder rate is rising. How do we kind of like reconcile this problem?
You know, I don't think it's just one answer. And I think this is what the administration is going to be facing, that's just coming in. You know, we just had an election in the city, and the crime is high. And but I do think there's great leadership that they have. I know that the new public director, Daniel Isom, I think he has the experience where he can, and then the background, he was the chief of police. He worked for the University of Missouri. He studied a lot about, the crime rates and a lot of that. So I think you have great leadership there. I think you just got to have to really get back and put like foot on the ground, really get involved in the community, because most of the time in the community, people may know what the problems are. And so there's this trust of whether or not they talk to the police, whether they can be protected, whether something's going to be retaliated. I think you have to get involved, because there's a lot of shooting and there's a lot of things that may occur. Even like just talking about police shooting, how that's just galvanized and so many people. But when there's violence in their own community, you still have to galvanize too. And I think it's just a combination of, you have to have that trust. You have to build up that trust. And you really have to put people that are involved and want to really police, that really want to clean up and really reach out to the community and really protect the community. And so there's just a lot of things that can be done. I think could address it, because crime is related to a lot of things, to jobs, housing, drugs. So if you clean up the drugs, issue, that may reduce crime. So I think it's a combination of different things that you have to try, different things that you have to do, and give people the same protection. I think one of the things of the issue of the North Side was the North Side have been saying, just locally, we don't have the protection, we don't have the police presence that some other areas have. And I think that that's the issues that needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but services to the individuals. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I think, if those we have pastors that's listening or ministers, create hubs, turn your church into a community-based hub where we can develop relationships and provide the services that will go directly to the people that are in need. Make them community-based service hubs where we can have job training, GED, job development, where people can come and do job search and try to get some jobs, for people to take jobs and go to work, and to reduce the unemployment in these urban areas, because lots of the urban areas have a very high unemployment rate. And if we could do more to reduce the unemployment rate in these urban areas, that would help somewhat with some of this violence. What do you think about that?
I think it does. Yeah, I think you really just kind of really made a really great point. It's all about, I think it's really a combination of different things. The jobs, giving people creative opportunity, and not only just that, and even policing. At the same time, policing is tough. You get there where people at their worst moment, but I think at that point you have to see what is really the issue. Is it mental illness? Is it drugs? Is it you have like different programs that people have. I've help different people get into drug treatment program that have unfortunately committed crime, but to support their drug habit. So it's the issue of, okay, do you address this person who is having this drug addiction? I think that's one of the things you have to really look at. What is really the cause of it, and what is one of the factors? And I think jobs is. If you have an opportunity, most of the crime, the high crime, is in the neighborhoods where the people who are, may not have the job, unemployed, barely getting by. And there's other things that is going on. So I think it's a combination of different things. And I guess you have to be willing to attack these issues. And when I mean attack, I mean address them, really address them, try different methods, look to see what other cities are doing that had high crime rate, because you see this all the time. City is high, then they fall off the list, they come back high again. What are some of the things that they're doing, that we're using in our own community?
Okay, very good. I wanted to some thoughts that I have about the criminalization of Black men. I wanted to kind of focus on that for a few minutes and just get your thoughts on the criminalization of Black men, that Black men are often seen as being violent or very dangerous, whether they are, they can just be walking, driving in a car, and they get stopped. Then they end up getting something on their record, a felony on their record, and they're in trouble, but they didn't do anything. They didn't really do anything. And I'm talking about the group that have not done anything, and this criminalization and all of the money that they have to spend to prove that they didn't do anything, but they were in the wrong neighborhood allegedly. They were stopped, and then they got this ticket, and then resisting arrest, and then it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling until they have a huge legal bill. Then they have to go to court to prove that they didn't do anything. And then the other piece of that I want to add is that it moves these men from the community, not expungement, expulsion from the community, because of the felonies. Now I can't vote because of the felony. Now I cannot get a job. Okay, so I have this felony on my record, and I can't vote, and I can't get a job. It's hard for me to rent a place to live. I don't make enough money to rent a place to live. So it just turns into a domino effect. As a lawyer and as a former officer, what can we do on the expulsion of Black men from our communities based upon these felonies that they continue to get?
Well, I think one of the things is that let's just say it starts at home. And what I mean by that is that growing up, my parents taught me, you have to be aware and conscious of who you're around. If the person you're around is doing something that can jeopardize your future or your life, you have to, stay away from that. Just be aware of that. So I think it's teaching at home. It's like you have to be leaders, it can't be followers, but that doesn't necessarily mean every group of kids, a large group of kids together, they're engaged in something illegal. So I think it starts at home with the teaching of, you have to be your own self. You have to know what you want out of life. And then you have to realize too, is that there's a stigma that if you get a record, there's a stigma. I remember when I was like 18 or 19, I was driving this car, and this car, I think I ran out of gas or something. And then a police officer came and pulled behind. One of the things I remember that this police officer asked me, have I ever been arrested? Do I have a criminal record? And I said, no. And it was like the police officer didn't believe me. It was like, okay, so you don't have a record. And I said, no. So this is what the police officer said. He said, well, okay, I'm going to run your name. And if you're telling me the truth, I'm going to help you. But if you're lying to me, I'm not going to help you. That's something that's still with me for a very long time, is that, and then eventually the police officer took me to the gas station and everything and helped me. But I was just think about if I, did have a record, that the police officer didn't want to take the time out to help me. So I think it's a combination of that. You really do have to watch the stigma. You have to know what you want out of life. And two, you really, and to get back to this whole thing with the records, some things needs to be expunged when people made mistakes for whatever reasons. It should not be something that is kept over you for the rest of your life. And so I think that whenever you can have the opportunities, there's laws that's been changed dealing with expungement. There's a list of different things that where you can expunge, and there's a list of things that you can't. So creating that opportunity, giving people jobs, and there's companies out here too that will hire someone as a felon, and I think those are good things, that giving people an opportunity, because some people do deserve a second chance, and not everyone that is in the community that has a record is a bad person. So I think it's a combination of a lot of things. But I do think that there's more taking away someone's rights to vote. not having a voice, I think that's only just making the issue worse. I don't think it really helping, because then the person saying, well, okay, no one's paying attention to me. And so I think it's a lot of things that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. And for those people that have, you may have a felony, if it's not a dangerous felony, like in most states, you have to check your statutes, but the Class A felonies are primarily considered those dangerous felonies that cannot be expunged. But those lesser felonies, like a Class C felony, you want to look into what you can do to have those issues removed from your record so you can be employable, you can buy a home, lease a home, whatever you need to do, and you can vote. So you want to look at the class of those felonies. Most issues dealing with sexual abuse and rape and so forth, kidnapping, you cannot expunge those things.
Violent crimes.
Yeah, but you can expunge many altercations that you may have had with the police that resulted in an arrest. You can definitely get many of those things expunged from your record. Can you tell us just briefly some of the solutions or steps that one would take? Obviously they will file a petition, and it has to meet the right classification. Cannot be a Class A, a dangerous felony.
Yeah, and a lot of it is the time period too, because I think the law changed in 2018.
Right.
A longer period of time was 10 to 20 years. Now it's like a misdemeanor. You can ask for a expungement after 3 years. If it's a felony, certain felonies after 7 years. If it's a DWI at first, after 10 years. So there's different things that, you first have to look and see what's the time period. And then, yes, it does involve filing a petition with the court, paying the fees. Now they have a universal fee. Before, it used to be whatever fee that court would charge. Now it's a certain fee that's a set across the board. And you just pretty much, you have to list all of the agencies that you want your records to be expunged or sealed. Because if you don't, then let's say if you say Missouri Highway Patrol, but then if you don't list the St. Louis Police Department, someone can get the records from the St. Louis Police Department. So you list all of that. You want to be as broad, list as many entities as possible that may have that record or that may have that information that you want to be sealed or to expunge. And pretty much you go in front of the judge. The judge is going to ask a series of questions. Have you had any crimes since? Have you ever committed crime since then? They're going to ask you questions about your identity, and then once you get that, if the court grants it, you get that order. They send all these orders out to all of these agencies, the Highway Patrol, the police department, to expunge the records, and your records should be expunged then. But it's good to always keep, have a copy too, because just in case if it's not expunged, you want to have that order from the court where you can present that, get it where it's sealed, and you can send it to the agency and say that my record should have been expunged.
Okay. So on today, what we're doing, we're trying to provide solutions and information to help individuals that are struggling with felonies on their record. Maybe you're facing some type of criminal charge and you need some information. So if you can type your question, we can respond and give you some information. Now, another issue that keeps a lot of individuals down is child support, a child support problem. That many individuals, that when they get a job, they cannot continue to get the job, they get the job, and then they quit the job because of the child support issue. And there has been a lot of violence and a lot of problems around child support because so many times they take so much child support out of that individual's check that they don't even have enough money to take care of themselves. And so one of the things that an individual can do is to seek a modification if that child support is too much and you cannot pay your expenses and so forth, and you can show hardship and good cause. Can you give us some information, Attorney Henderson, regarding some of the modifications, things that individuals can do if they are facing these types of hardships?
There's a lot of things you can do as far as like with like you said, filing a motion for modification of the child support. You have to show there's a change in circumstances. If someone has health issues, or if they having the loss of income, and then also too, a lot of times when the child support is calculated, they use the form 14. It's a form where it's across the board, add income, expenses, but people lifestyles could have changed since then. So you want to you want to make sure that you go to that where they use that form 14 to see, you know, what is the ideal child support I should be paying. And also too, sometimes people's circumstances change. Let's say if the child was not in your custody, but then the child is in your custody, that you've been, you know, providing. You have to keep documentation of that to show that you have been, you know, yet you having child support taken, but at the same time, you've been supporting the child with not just with the child support, but the child is with you, living with you. And there's a lot of things that I think that people can do. But and one of the things is, I know there has been a change where people still get locked up, you know, for child support, but not as often as I know after when when St. Louis County, when they kind of just took over St. Louis County, you have a new prosecutor at that time, and they were saying they was going to try to stop making child support a criminal offense and make it more of a civil offense. And I think that's good too, because now you're not locking up people. People can get jobs. People can go do different things. And even if you get your wages garnished, you want to look at that. There may be certain things that you may want to do. You can file exemptions. You can do other things to see, like, is the right amount is taken out. So it's all about, you know, going in, talking to somebody. And most of the time, if you can talk to somebody who talk to an attorney that deals with child support modification, talk to an attorney that deals with expungement. There may be a fee and there may not be. Sometimes people do free consultations. Some people may have where you pay a flat fee just to come in and get all your questions answered. And we're here to answer your questions if you have them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You are listening to Legal Views with Attorney Sam Henderson as our special guest, and Attorney Sheila R. Stewart. Attorney Henderson, can you share your contact information of where people may want to call if they have some questions regarding child support modifications?
Yes, it's at Henderson Law Firm. My number is 399. The area code is 14399-8266. And that's 314-399-8266. It's Henderson Law Firm.
Thank you very much. And I am your host, Attorney Sheila R. Stewart, and my number is 314-680-0920, 314-680-0920. And we are here live on Legal Views discussing many issues. There's a lot going on, and we're just going through and giving you just so much information for your success. Now, let's talk about this. Let's go back and talk about this new measure that just passed the House, the George Floyd Policing Act. Okay. We know that it went through the House. We also know that the GOP Senator Tim Scott also has a policing reform act that he's pushing as well. Now, what is it going to take for us to get one of these acts in place? The GOP Policing Act, it has some, we're going to ban chokeholds. And so, but we need more than that. We need some sensitivity training, and we need some better relationships along with banning the chokehold. Can you tell us, of those that are listening, can you tell us a little bit about the George Floyd Policing Act?
Yes. Okay. The George Floyd Policing Act it was the sponsor of that was Karen Bass. She's a Democrat in California, and really it kind of brings back to what I've been saying, talking about accountability for law enforcement. What it does, it has lowered the standard for like some things we have to prove that the police conduct was willful. So it lowered that standard to knowingly or recklessly. So if someone do something, like for instance, if someone's on someone's neck, on their knee, and they may not do it willfully, but they may do it staying on there on the neck for a long period of time, like in the case of George Floyd. It lowers the standard that you have to prove in court. And then it limits the qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is just a legal term saying it's pretty much saying that we're not going to hold the police accountable for things that police officers do that is reasonable, and they haven't done it before. So they're trying to take away that defense, because a lot of cases get tossed out when you file a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit, based upon just qualified immunity.
Mhm.
Then it also it gives a little bit more power to the Department of Justice, where they can issue subpoena, they can do investigation to see if there's practice and pattern of discrimination. And one of the things, like we talk about it, national registry, where there's a police officer that has been terminated for misconduct. That's going to go into the national registry. That person can't jump and shuffle to somewhere else. And it's a lot of things too, giving funding to police officers for body cameras, for requiring them to report their use of force. So it's a combination of a lot of things. I think it's a great thing to a really great legislation. I think it's all about getting past. Of course, it's going to take both sides to pass a legislation like this.
So what do you think are the distinctions between Republican Senator Scott's policing reform crime bill versus the George Floyd? What do you think are the big distinctions between the two?
I think one of the things is like with Senator Scott, I know there is a ban on chokehold. There's the end of, like police officers sometimes, I mean, I can say police officer, but just the police department can get military equipment through a program. One of the things that Senator Scott is putting a limit of how much military equipment that police department can get, because we saw it during the whole, it was one of the criticism of when there was a lot of protests going on locally. You saw tanks and police officers out there with their guns and looking like a military. So a lot of that equipment, they get those equipments from the military. So I know Senator Scott bill kind of puts a limit on that, and puts more of, like, before these agencies can get funding, they have to report the use of force. They have to ban the chokeholds. So to me, I think that's still holding accountability, and I think this is the time where they can really do a bipartisan legislation. You have a Democrat that is introducing the George Floyd legislation. You have Senator Scott. I think this is an opportunity where you can get, if this isn't a really important issue, and it is a very important issue, I think there can be bipartisan, where they can come together and where they can hold the police accountable, do some great things, and really make an impact.
Absolutely, absolutely. If we can just pass one of them, I would be excited. But hopefully the George Floyd Act, which is more inclusive of bad actors, will be the one that we can get passed through the Senate. Okay, I have some thoughts that I would like to share with you, Attorney Henderson, as it relates to the climate of the United States of America right now. That the United States of America right now is very polarized. It's polarized by race, it's polarized by political parties, and it's polarized by income. The information, the resources, the news, they're saying that poverty has hit an all-time high, and that the pandemic has resulted in more individuals falling into poverty. Okay? Falling into poverty. what do we do as attorneys? What do we do as attorneys to provide resources and information to help individuals to become successful and more sustainable at a time like this, in your opinion?
I think we keep advocating for the ones that may not have a voice. And what I mean by that is that when we see there's something, when we say this is really an injustice, we have to speak out, we have to do something, we have to advocate for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the things, because a lot of times people may have a case, but can that case get filed? So you have to go and meet with an attorney, you have to talk to an attorney, and actually you have to persuade an attorney whether or not to take your case. So as an attorney, we have that we see that this is a case that can make an impact, or this is a case where someone was wrong and we can make it right. So I think there's a lot of things we can do as an attorney, taking on cases where we feel like that this is something where we can really pursue justice for the client. And I think where other people, where someone who may not, have an attorney, is get the more knowledge that you have, go in and talk to, go in there for consultation, speak with someone to find out, see what choices, what options that you have. And I think too, and just whenever there's an environment like this, after the verdict of George Floyd, it doesn't go away. We got the verdict, but there's other issues that are still going on. It's like, it seems to be like things are up on the rising, and then things come down and everything goes back to the normal again. But always, like we're talking about the George Floyd bill, the policing bill, advocating, trying to persuade our politicians to pass that, holding them accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not going away. I think it's the thing is that you be persistent. If you think you've been wrong in a certain situation, speak out, make complaints, go in, talk to somebody, just try to do something, find someone who's going to advocate for you. But to go back to your question on what can we do, I think we have something that we have a law degree. We can file lawsuits on people's behalf. We can go in there. We can be their mouthpiece. And I think that's very important around by this time.
So do you see people reaching across the aisle to work with each other now? Do you think the climate is staying the same? Do you think it's changing? I mean, what are your views? Are you seeing that things are getting better, or just the still complete polarization between the parties, the races?
See, the parties and the races too different, like the parties, the parties, it seems like it's always going to be very political. It's going to be someone's wrong, someone is right. It used to be where it used to be bipartisan. Bipartisan now is not really a word in Washington. Only it's a word, but it's not. There's no actions behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see it in the political sense, but I do see it in more of the community. Think about George Floyd, how it was the people there was all type of race. It was black, it was white, it was everyone, different people there. They saw an injustice and they spoke out. They tried to do something. They took pictures. They tried to persuade, the police to get closer to help. They came in to testify. They told what happened. They got involved. And it just wasn't all black people. It was different people of all different type of race that got involved. So I can see that was something where it came across, and look at the result of that. People, the jurors was made up of the community. It wasn't an all white juror. It was people of different, different race on the jury, and they issue a verdict. So I think things are getting better, but it's not to where you have to just say, okay, we did that, we achieved that, let's stop it. There's other things that we can do much better. So I do see that the community, because when people saw what happened to George Floyd, no matter what race, people saw that, they saw that was an injustice. Something wasn't right with that, especially when it's someone that lost his life. So I think it is getting better, but at the same time, we can't just be complacent. We can't stop. We can't, just in Minnesota, George Floyd, but then another person got shot. Now, killed, on whether the circumstances, it's just that you have to keep moving forward and keep being advocating, just an advocate for the community.
Many people are saying that the verdict represents justice. Do you think the verdict actually represents justice?
I think the verdict is justice. This is the thing. It's like Mr. Floyd is no longer here. There's a loss there. There's a loss of life. So can that equate to really justice? But to me, it's holding the police accountable, because if you did not hold the police accountable, that same police officer will be out there on the force, potentially could do the same thing to someone else. So justice means different things. I'm sure if you ask the family, it may be justice now, but there's a loss. There's a big loss in there. There's so to me, I think justice is something where I think it's moving in the right direction, and you holding police accountable, because we normally don't see this. Like police officers speaking out against police officers. Normally, it was like it's better not to say anything versus to speak out. But you saw in this case, police officers spoke out. They did something. And the prosecution, they prosecuted the police. Didn't give this police officer the benefit of the doubt. It was like, hey, he violated policies. Someone lost his life. So I think it's that question you ask is who you ask it to. If it's justice mean, okay, it's all done, let's end it, let's stop, then I think there's a lot more to do. But I think it's a great movement in the right direction, where you're holding the police accountable for taking a man's life when it was unnecessary.
Yes. I too believe that it is a move in the right direction, and it is a very powerful move in the right direction, because had not the jury returned such a verdict, there would have been probably anarchy throughout the United States of America. So it was wonderful that they were able to return such a verdict so quickly. And furthermore, it speaks to, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, it speaks to humanity coming back into the United States. It seemed like to me so much of the humanity, how people treated each other and responded to issues, had gotten very cold. But it spoke to the humanity when individuals were able to come back and say, this is what I saw. This is what he did. This is how it made me feel. It was hard to watch. We wanted to get help, that people cared. People had compassion again. So I think it's a step in the right direction. We have a lot of work to do. We have a big distance to go, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. We are almost out of time. You have done a tremendous job. I have truly enjoyed you. What are your last takeaways before we get ready to turn it over to the next host on CJOY Network?
Well, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. Anytime when you ask me to come, I will be available. And it's just great just to get information out to the public. Practicing law is real. I love it. I like advocating for people. And this is what it's all about. It's advocating for individuals that have issues, and we're here to help. And just thank you for the opportunity. And I hope that we can help further even more people.
Well, thank you so much. Well, you have been listening to Legal Views with attorney Sheila R. Stewart. We had attorney Sam Henderson with us on this evening. We have covered so much information. So if you missed it, you're going to have to go back on my page and listen to it again. Thank you so much for being with us on today. We will come back to you on next Saturday, and we're planning on tackling a very serious subject on next week. We're going to look at sexual harassment and sexual misconduct in the church. Sexual harassment and sexual misconduct. So tune in with us for next Saturday, and we hope to give you some great information so that if you feel that you have been sexually harassed, you know someone that has been sexually harassed, or you have witnessed sexual misconduct in the church, this is the place you want to tune in on next Saturday. Thank you so much. And we're going to turn it over to Daryl Breath at this time so that he can get ready to introduce our next moderator with us on this evening on C-Joy Network. Thank you so much, and we will see you on next Saturday. Have a great evening and a great weekend. Bye.